I never meant for it to go this far. When I first met her, I thought it was harmless, just a small lie, something that made me look a little better than I really was. Everyone does that, right? You meet someone you really like, and suddenly you want to be the best version of yourself. You say things you wish were true, and you tell yourself you'll come clean once they see the real you, once they love you enough to forgive the details. But I didn't. I kept the lie alive. And now, years later, the truth has finally found me. When I met Emily, I wasn't proud of who I was. I was between jobs, struggling, living in a tiny apartment that smelled like burnt coffee and regret. I had dreams, big ones, but at that point, dreams were all I had. So when she asked what I did for a living, I told her I worked in marketing. The truth? I'd been fired 3 months earlier. I was surviving on savings and picking up odd freelance gigs that barely covered rent. But the way she smiled when I said marketing, like she saw someone ambitious, confident, with a plan, I couldn't take that away. Not yet. It was supposed to be temporary. Just until I got back on my feet. I told myself, when I land something real, I'll tell her everything. I thought I'd have the chance to rewrite my story before she ever learned the old one. But life doesn't move at the pace of our intentions. 1 month became 6. Then a year. Then we were living together, and I had built an entire identity on top of a lie I no longer controlled. The deeper I went, the more impossible it became to dig myself out. It wasn't just about the job anymore, it was who I was to her. Every compliment she gave me, every time she said, "I'm proud of you," felt like a dagger twisting a little deeper in my chest. She loved a version of me that didn't exist. And that's the cruelest kind of love, the kind built on something fragile, something false. The guilt ate at me in ways I didn't expect. I'd wake up at night drenched in sweat, imagining the moment she'd find out. I'd picture her face, confusion first, then anger, then heartbreak. I tried to justify it. I told myself that everyone has secrets, that I wasn't hurting anyone. But I was. I was hurting her every day I chose not to be honest. And worse, I was becoming someone I despised. You know that feeling when you look in the mirror and don't recognize yourself? That was me. Every morning, shaving a face that felt borrowed. Smiling for a life that didn't belong to me. Pretending to be someone I had invented to deserve her love. I was a fraud, and I knew it. And then came the day everything started to unravel. It began innocently. Emily was organizing some papers for our mortgage application. We had just started talking about buying a small house, our dream place, something with a backyard, a porch where she could drink her morning coffee. She asked for my recent pay stubs. My stomach dropped. I had always told her I handled my work documents digitally, that everything was on the cloud. That day, she found a letter in one of my drawers. An old rejection letter, from a company I'd applied to years ago, before we met. The date didn't match the timeline I'd told her about. She looked confused. "Hey," she said, "I thought you were already working at the agency when we met." That question, so simple, so innocent, was the beginning of the end. I froze. My mind went blank. For a moment, I considered lying again. One more lie, to patch the hole in the story. But something in her eyes stopped me. She wasn't angry. Not yet. Just curious. Trusting. And that trust, that quiet, steady belief that I was who I said I was, it broke me. I told her the truth. At least, I started to. The words came out messy, broken, heavy with years of guilt. I told her I had lost my job before we met. That I didn't want her to see me as a failure. That I thought I'd fix it before it mattered. But then I fell in love with her, and the lie became a wall between us that I didn't know how to climb. She didn't say anything for a long time. She just stared at me. I could see every memory flashing through her mind, every dinner, every birthday, every conversation that had been built on half-truths. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm, but sharp enough to cut through the air. "So who are you really, then?" And I didn't know how to answer. That night, she didn't sleep beside me. I heard her crying in the living room. I wanted to go to her, to say something, anything, but what words could fix that? I'd spent years pretending to be someone I wasn't. The silence between us was deafening. The next few days were a blur. She barely spoke to me. I tried to give her space, hoping she'd cool down, hoping she'd understand. But deep down, I knew this wasn't about the lie itself, it was about trust. I hadn't just lied about my job. I had lied about me. I started writing letters to her. I couldn't find the right words face to face, so I poured everything into ink. I wrote about my childhood, my insecurities, how I always felt like I wasn't enough. How I thought lying made me lovable. How I thought I needed to be perfect for someone to stay. I left those letters for her every morning before work. Some she read, some she didn't. But I kept writing. It was the only way I knew how to fight for her. Weeks passed. The house felt like a museum of what we used to be. Every photo frame, every little note she'd written me, every shared memory, it all felt like evidence in a trial I was losing. I started therapy. Not for her, but for me. I needed to understand why I did it. Why I built a mask instead of facing my own reflection. And slowly, painfully, I began to realize that lying wasn't the real problem, shame was. Shame had been steering my life for years. I wasn't proud of myself, so I built a version of me I thought deserved love. But love built on pretense always collapses. After about a month, she came to me. It was late, I was sitting at the kitchen table, writing another letter. She stood there for a while, just watching. Then she said, "I read all of them." My hands were shaking. I didn't know what to say. Then she added, "I still don't know if I can trust you again. But I believe you're trying." That sentence became the seed of hope I didn't know I needed. Trust wasn't going to be rebuilt overnight. It would take time, honesty, and a kind of humility I had avoided all my life. But it was a start. The next months were filled with small steps, therapy together, late-night talks, tears, laughter that felt uncertain but real. I started being brutally honest about everything, even the little things. I told her when I was scared, when I was insecure, when I doubted myself. For the first time, I let her see the parts of me I had hidden, the messy, imperfect parts one used to cover with charm and confidence. And instead of running, she stayed. One day, she told me something that changed the way I saw everything. She said, "I didn't fall in love with your lies. I fell in love with how you made me feel. And I still want to believe that person is real, the one who tries, who loves, who learns." I broke down. Because she was right. The man she loved wasn't fake. He was just buried under fear. That day, I made her a promise, not that I'd be perfect, but that I'd always be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. And somehow, that became the foundation of something stronger than what we had before. It's been years since that night. We still talk about it sometimes, not with pain, but with gratitude. Because it changed us. It stripped away everything artificial and left only what was real. She taught me that love isn't about being flawless, it's about being brave enough to be seen fully, even when you're ashamed of what's underneath. Now, when I look at her, I see not just the woman who forgave me, but the woman who helped me find myself. The woman who showed me that honesty isn't about perfection, it's about connection. I used to think that if she knew the truth, she'd leave. But the truth is what finally brought her closer. Because the person she wanted wasn't the one I pretended to be. It was me, the scared, flawed, hopeful man beneath it all. If I could tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: you don't have to fake being worthy of love. You already are. You just have to stop hiding long enough for someone to see it. And that's the strange beauty of being discovered. Sometimes, the thing you fear most is exactly what sets you free. So now, when I think about that lie, I don't see it as the end of something. I see it as the moment my real life began. Because the truth, as painful as it was, became the bridge back to her. To us. To me. I no longer hide behind versions of myself. I show up, as I am, imperfect and real. And every day, she chooses me again. That's what love really is, not the absence of mistakes, but the courage to face them together. And if you've ever hidden who you are, maybe it's time to let yourself be found. Thank you, truly, for staying with me through this story. If you've ever carried a secret, or made a mistake that you thought could never be forgiven, I hope this reminded you that change is possible, that honesty, no matter how hard, can set you free. I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever hidden something about yourself out of fear or shame? Share your story in the comments, you never know who might need to read it today. And if this story meant something to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. There are so many more true stories like this one, about love, redemption, and the messy beauty of being human. Thank you for listening, and for letting my truth meet yours.